What's up, fight fans? Welcome to the 11th episode of Fight Nerds. My name is Flyin Brian J, and on this episode, I am flying solo. So in order to keep this podcast named Fight Nerds, plural, I've invited you guys on Facebook's live, MMA Mania's Facebook page, being live here to join me on the show so that we can keep it with Fight Nerds. Of course, if you don't want to watch the whole show right now, maybe you want to listen to the program later, help you commute to or from work, or maybe help you through the workday. About an hour after I'm done recording this show, I will have it up on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, and all of that. What I'm going to do here is go over my picks for UFC Fight Night 111 or hashtag UFC Singapore, starting at the top with the main event, Holly, the Preacher's Daughter Holm versus Betcha Pitbull Correia. And working my way down to the first fight of the night, which is Ji Yeon Kim versus Lucy Bullet Pudilova. And that's the first section. Section number 2, I'm going to go over a couple of things that are in the news right now in the MMA world. And section number 3, I'm going to go over something that is, I like to call, geeked outside of mixed martial arts. So it's just something that I've been interested in the past basically 7 days that doesn't have to do with mixed martial arts. Of course, below me here, if you're watching on Facebook Live, I want you to vote for what pre-fight letter grade you would give this card. So, I'm going to grade each fight as we go down, and I also give my picks, starting with Holly Holm, Betcha Correia, down to the first fight of the night. But I'm also going to give a grade for each one, A to F, and I'm basically going to give it a number ranking, 5 being an A, 1 being an F. I'm going to put it into a spreadsheet and then average it out so that I can see what my final grade would be after looking at each fight individually, not just looking at the card as a whole. Now, if you did not know, this fight card starts at 4:30 a.m. Eastern Time. The entire thing is taking place on Fight Pass. My time, that's 3:30 a.m., so that really sucks. I'm going to do a pre-fight show, the MMA preamble, so I have to get up really early for that, which is just awful. But one saving grace is it's on Fight Pass, so the thing could just go quicker than snot. We're not going to be looking at too many movie advertisements or anything like that. There are a few fights on here that I'm super excited about. There are a few that I just could not care less about. Overall, I'm giving the card, and this has a lot to do with what time the fight card starts. I'm giving it, a C-. If it just had a different main event, maybe if Saffiedine versus Dos Anjos was the main event, I might give it a C+. But in the current state, C- all the way. Which, another thing, it means that the fight card has nothing to do but exceed expectations. When you're expecting a card to be just pure shit, and then it turns out to be decent, that's overcoming some expectations. Let's see what you guys are saying in the comments. Jerome Go says D-. Adam Lawson says D+, C-. So him and I are on the same page, kinda. Robbie Rapp, C. Burselli Ferozi says hi. What's up, man? Thanks for joining us. Dennis Carr has Holly Holm by KO as her pick. Amon Scott is also picking Holm by a 4th round TKO. So let's talk about the main event. First of all, there are only 2 odds that are out for this fight card, and like a dummy, I forgot to pull up best fight odds, so give me a second here. Oh, looks like before I started talking, the odds got dropped on the rest of the fights. So, okay. Holly Holm is -600. The comeback on Betcha Correia is +450. One, I'm going to say straight out of the chute, I'm picking Holly Holm to get the victory. Either by late stoppage or probably by decision, but in no way, shape, or form do I believe she should be -600. Neither of these ladies are doing that well lately. Both of them are on 2-fight losing skids. Holly Holm is on a 3-fight losing skid. Neither of them have finished many fights. Holly has finished 1 fight. Betch has finished 1 fight. Holly finishing Ronda Rousey. Betch finishing, I can't remember which one of Ronda Rousey's cronies. But anyway, this fight, the stylistic matchup plays right into Holly Holm's hands. Correia is going to come forward, and she's going to throw kind of a myriad of striking techniques. She's pretty decent at throwing a variety of strikes. But that plays right into Holly Holm's hand because Holly is best off of her back foot. That's why her only finish in the UFC was against Ronda Rousey, who just came in, pushed forward the entire time. I think that Holly's going to be able to keep Betch at range. And then, in Correia's last fight against Marion Renault, what is the strike that landed on Correia that got her wobbled, that got her a 10-8 round, losing a 10-8 round in the third, that made that fight end up being a draw? It was a G-dang head kick, and that is exactly what Holly Holm is the best at. I think she keeps Correia at bay with the jab, and then Correia is going to overcommit, and then it comes the shin from Holly Holm, and that's going to happen late in the fight. Correia does have some takedown ability. She could get Holm to the ground, but Holm, if she gets taken down, she doesn't stay there for too long, unless she's fighting Miesha Tate, I guess, and she has really good takedown defense. So overall, I think Holly Holm is going to her way to probably a decision or maybe a fourth-round TKO, like Eamon Scott said earlier. Holm by TKO, he's saying on the odds, is plus 150. Let's verify that real quick. I trust you, buddy. But let me just... Oh, looking at the wrong fight. Sorry, guys. Oh, it's gone down because people are betting it, Amon. In the past day, it has gone from plus 160 to plus 135. So if you truly believe that Holly Holm is going to get a finish via TKO, and you're a gambling man, you better get on that quick before it ends up at plus money, or I mean minus money, or at even money, anything like that. Holm... Robbie Rapp says Holm with a kick to Betch's head, KO. Yeah, I believe that. And then what's next for Betch? Because that would make her on a 3-fight losing streak, but she doesn't have the name value that Holly Holm has. So will they keep her around after a 3-fight losing skid? Maybe. Anyway, the official pick for me, and I'll be doing a pure just one-fight prediction video like I do with my green screen and everything, predicting this fight. I'll probably have that up on Wednesday night. But my official pick as of right now, you guys are seeing it early, is Holly Holm via 4th round KO or TKO. Before I move into the co-main event, which is Andre Pitbull Arlovski versus Marcin Tybura, forgot to mention at the beginning what the topic is I'm going to talk about in the news section. Number 1, Sean Grand left Bellator, which leaves a vacant spot for somebody with a big name. And number 2 is Mayweather Promotions booked August 26th for McGregor, but no deal has been finalized per Brett Okamoto, and neither man has applied for a Nevada boxing license for August 26th yet. But that's telling us that Conor McGregor versus Mayweather is getting real close to being done, I believe. Also, let me skip down. I'm going to skip Arlovski versus Marcin Tybura. I'm going to go all the way down to Justin Tank Scoggins versus Yuta Olka Sasaki, which this is my pick for fight of the night. But first, the fight has to happen. The guys have to make it to the cage on Saturday morning, or would it be Saturday morning? Or Saturday afternoon if you're actually from Singapore. Now, the reason I'm saying perhaps the fight doesn't happen is 3 times in the past, I think 5 fights for Justin Scoggins, he has failed to make it to the cage, and he was pulled from the fight on fight week. This is Monday of fight week. Maybe he doesn't even make it to the octagon, which would be really sad. And because he didn't make it to the octagon in his fight against, well, he was scheduled to fight Ian McCall before he fought Pedro Munoz, and he said he wasn't going to make weight, so he was just pulled from the fight card. Then they forced him to go up to 135 pounds and fight Pedro Munoz, where he lost via submission guillotine choke midway through round number 2. And the 2 times before that, he said that he was pulled citing an injury, but maybe it was because he couldn't make weight then. He's making his return to 125 pounds to face Yuta Olka Sasaki, and even if he does make the weight, or even if he misses weight and then makes it to the cage, perhaps his energy could be just completely sapped. And the odds have Justin Scoggins at minus 555 with a comeback on Yuta Olka Sasaki at plus 365. Whoa. I don't think Olka Sasaki is anyone to fuck around with. Man, Justin Scoggins is really good. I don't think those odds are really reflective of how fun and how close this matchup is going to be, especially when factoring in, like I'm saying, maybe Justin can't even make it to the octagon, and if he does, he could look super, super depleted. Now, for the stylistic matchup, Justin Scoggins, known for a lengthy, wild, kind of loose, goofy striker, very fun to watch on the feet. On the ground, great with scrambles, really good with his opportunistic jiu-jitsu, and just fun to watch in transitions on the ground. I do favor him to win this fight, but I was just telling you some reasons to keep an eye out for Sasaki. And Sasaki came in there against Wilson Hayes and had a phenomenal performance. This guy, where Scoggins is going to be throwing like Wonder Boy type of kicks, all kinds of goofy stuff, spinning techniques, hook kicks, question mark kicks, that type of jazz on the feet. Sasaki, he's mostly going to be boxing on the feet, but he is super long and he stands pretty heavy over his lead leg, kind of hunches forward. His jab is super quick. His 1-2 super quick. He loves throwing a uppercut from lengthy. You know, I like to call it like a shovel uppercut or a distance one. You know, it's not coming straight up and down, perpendicular to the floor. It's got kind of a arching trajectory with his super long ass arms. On the ground, he's really good with transitional grappling as well. He used a Kimura a couple of times to get up off of his back when Wilson Hayes took him down. And Wilson Hayes is phenomenal with his jiu-jitsu despite Demetrius Johnson submitting him. I just think this fight is going to be super fun on the feet because we've got these two super long dudes at 125 pounds. Scoggins with those dynamic kicks. Olka with his long, super fast hands and those uppercuts and shit. Going to be super fun on the feet. On the ground, they're both got a lot of good transitions, a lot of fun things on the ground. Both guys attack off of their back. When they get top position, they are looking for some ground and pound, looking for submission attempts. There's no part of this fight that's going to be boring at all. But, man, you have to favor Justin Scoggins here. He has a lot of hype around him, but man, minus 555. Woo! The over-under 1.5 rounds is minus 190, and the under 1.5 rounds is plus 150. Adam Lawson agrees with me that the odds seem odd. Oh! Boom. Anyway, Justin Scoggins, I'm going to go via either submission. Oh, maybe KO TKO. I think the fight goes over 1.5 rounds. I'm going to pick Scoggins via late TKO. Moving back up to the co-main event of the evening, which is Andre Pitbull Arlovski versus Marcin Tybura. I'm not seeing that any of you guys are voting down below what type of grade you would give this card pre-fight. And I forgot to say what grade I would give it. No, each fight. The main event, I'm giving a C. The fight I just talked about, Scoggins versus Sasaki, I am giving an A. So I've got a 5 and a 3 there. Let me put that into my little dealio. 3. 5er. Okay, the main event of the evening. This doesn't really need too much breaking down. Andre Arlovski is going to come in here and he's going to box. And he's going to try to hide his really terrible chin. Marcin Tybura is going to come in here and kickbox. I think that Marcin is probably quicker. He has more diversity in his striking attack. Shins to the dome all day. Something to note here, the odds have Tybura at minus 250, come back on Arlovski plus 210. In Tybura's last 3 outings against Timothy Johnson, Victor Pesta, and Luis Henrique, he has had to fight off a lot of takedowns. All 3 of those dudes want to get off on their takedowns. Henrique is great with some ground and pound. Victor Pesta wants to control you on the ground. Timothy Johnson is mostly a lay-on-you kind of guy. He has some pretty good ground and pound. In this fight, Pitbull Arlovski is not going to attempt a takedown whatsoever, which means Marcin can worry less about that, get a little more loose, and have a little bit more space to throw a shin at Arlovski's face and just test that chin. Arlovski's chin has been tested many a times in his professional fighting career. He has been knocked out 10 fucking times. 10 times Pitbull Arlovski has been knocked out, and he has been finished in the last 4 outings, 3 of those via KO or TKO. In 54 seconds against Stipe Miocic, in the second round against Alistair Overeem, and at a minute 32 against Francis Ngannou. Now, of course, Marcin Tybura has not fought the level of competition that Andre Arlovski is name value-wise, or the level of competition that Arlovski has faced in the past, but as Jeremy Brigham says, Tybura is gonna fucking kick the chin right off Andre Arlovski. It might take him 7 minutes to do it. Let's look at the odds. Over or under 1.5 rounds is at minus 110. That is, I think that's right where it needs to be, because I think it takes him nearly 7.5 minutes to finish him. Probably going to happen at about 7 minutes and 25 seconds, but I do believe Tybura is going to knock out Andre Pitbull Arlovski. As we're transitioning down to number 7 welterweight in the world, Dong Young Kim, the stun gun, versus Chaos Colby Covington. Chris Garner says he feels like this card could be great. There are a lot of fighters on the card that have a lot to prove. And Adam Lawson says having a glass chin at heavyweight is a way too much of a disadvantage. And I think that right there is why Tybura is minus 250. Thanks for hanging out, Chris. Jeremy Bringham's going to take the under in Arlovski versus Tybura. Anyway, Dong Young Kim versus Chaos Colby Covington. Dong Young has a black belt in judo. He's lately, since he knocked out Eric Silva a couple of years ago with a phenomenal KO of the night, highlight reel level stuff, he has stopped being the guy that he used to be, which was a lot of ground control, a lot of judo, let's say, some ground and pound and stuff. So we got that bonus, and now he's turning into this wild, reckless dude, throwing back fists all over the place, getting really crazy when he fought Tyron Woodley. Across the cage from him, Chaos Colby Covington. This guy is a two-time Division I All-American wrestler for Oregon State, and I've been saying it for years. Chaos does not fit this man. His fighting style is not fun whatsoever. Just look at his fight against Brian Bam Bam Barberina. Takedown, 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 grind the shit out, minimal ground and pound. Yes, he's a smart fighter. He's super strong, very athletic, phenomenal with his wrestling, but I do not enjoy watching him fight. So this fight I'm giving has potential for some action, has potential to be fun, but because Chaos Colby could make this thing a ding-dang stinker, I'm giving it a 3 out of 5 or a C on a scale of A to F. Forgot to say Pitbull versus Tybura. I'm giving that baby a B because I think no matter who wins, even if Arlovski were to get the victory, we're going to see a finish, and that shit's going to be fun. In Dong Young versus Colby, I think Dong has a distinct advantage on the feet. But what's really fun is not only do we have a judoka versus All-American wrestler where, you know, that stylistic thing is going to play out. Both these dudes like to press forward. So who's going to give in the pressure game? I think that Dong Young is going to land some wild and crazy shit on Chaos Colby. And I'm picking Dong Young here, even though the odds have Chaos Colby as a pretty hefty favorite, minus 270. The comeback on Dong Young Kim, plus 190. It's got to be a little bit of my biases that are making me picking Dong Young Kim because he definitely could get wild here, throw a spinning back fist, miss on it, and Colby take him down, and that's where the rest of the round takes place. And obviously, Colby would win that round. That is a distinct possibility. I think that is why Chaos Colby is the favorite here. But one more reason why I'm picking the stun gun is Colby was saying earlier on Twitter that he is already thinking about a fight against Tyron Woodley. Man, I don't know if that's just he's hyping himself up or if he's really not focused on Dong Young Kim. Also, this fight is happening closer to Dong. That could play a factor. I haven't listened to an interview where Chaos Colby could say that he's been training. He went there early. I don't know how long he's been there. So I'm picking Dong Young Kim via probably decision if he can keep the fight on the feet. But if he gets taken down early, Colby's going to win a decision. Moving down, very fun fight. Tarek the Sponge Saffiedine versus Rafael dos Anjos. First, my grade. I'm giving the fight a C+. I'll give it a C+, but I'm tired of doing points, so I'm going with a B. I like the fight a lot. I like watching Rafael dos Anjos fight. He's a very good athlete, and he's a former 155-pound champion, making his welterweight debut. I love this. I love seeing it, and it's a fun stylistic matchup for him because across from him, he's basically got a kickboxer in Tarek Saffiedine. And sure, Saffiedine has very fundamentally sound kickboxing. He is really good with his jabs. But let me look quickly at his Wikipedia. He has one win by knockout in 22 professional appearances. That's not cool. That's not very fun at all. So great, he could win a point fight. But Rafael dos Anjos, this man is a finisher. He's coming out there, he's going to southpaw kick you in the fucking ribs. And I think his hands, he hits harder than Tarek Saffiedine. And you would think, perhaps moving up to welterweight, that dos Anjos is going to be at a size disadvantage. But no, they have the same reach. They are almost the same height. Dos Anjos is just giving up a little bit of range in the legs. Dos Anjos also has a great takedown game. He can bully you up against the fence really well with some uppercuts. He has some jiu-jitsu that I don't think we've seen for a while. But because of the diversity and how hard each person hits, I'm definitely picking Rafael Dos Anjos to get the victory here. And the odds are agreeing with me. Minus 230 for Rafael Dos Anjos, and the comeback on Tarek Sponge Saffiedine at plus 170. Holm Stewart Jamang thinks RDA is hungry and he's going to get a decision. Chris Garner thinks that RDA should have it. Adam Lawson thinks Dos Anjos via decision. Iman Scott says Saffiedine via decision, excuse me for my slip up there, is where the money's at. It's worth some good value. Let's see. Right now, the odds only reflect over 2.5 rounds at minus 210 and under 2.5 rounds at plus 160. If you think that RDA is going to get a finish, perhaps that's where it's at. I think RDA has potential to get a finish here, but I'm definitely picking officially Rafael Dos Anjos via decision. Chris Garner says RDA has taken some beats, though. No, really only one beating, right? And that was against Eddie Alvarez. And that was and also he didn't take a beating against El Cucuy. Not at all. That was a super close fight. He lost a razor-thin decision, which he clearly lost, but it was razor-thin. The beating against Eddie Alvarez, he had passed out the day before, and they probably shouldn't have let him compete. And that's one reason why he's now fighting at 170 pounds. So I don't think he's taken that many beatings. I think that he's taken a while off, right, since losing to El Cucuy. I think he's going to look fresh here. I think he's going to look rejuvenated at a higher weight class. He's taken off December, January, February, March, April, May, June. 7 months. So, yeah, I had to finger count how long ago he fought. November 5th. Anyway, yeah, I think that Alvarez should win a 29-28 or maybe even a 30-27 decision. Moving down to the prelims, which are the whole fight card is on Fight Pass, except for I think maybe the last 4 fights are probably on BT Sports or some shit like that. I don't know. Anyway, prelims on Fight Pass that begin at 4:30 Eastern Time. Takanori, the Fireball Kid Gomi versus the Super Saiyan John Tuck. So, Takanori Gomi, legendary fighter, right? From his Pride days, knocking people out. I think he's on this fight card because it's happened in an Asian country. He's Japanese, huge name, but the guy hasn't won a fight in, I want to say, 4 years. I just looked it up. He hasn't won a fight since he fought Isaac Valley Flag back in April of 2014. So he hasn't won a fight in 3 years. And since that time, he's lost 3 first-round TKOs to Miles Jury, Joe Lozon, and Jim Miller. Those guys are all jiu-jitsu guys, and that might have been why they put him in there with them. And they TKO'd his ass in the very first minute. Now he's got the Super Saiyan John Tuck, who's not a jiu-jitsu wizard. He's more of a stand-up and strike kind of guy with some kickboxing, but he's not that powerful. Yet I think that John Tuck is going to KO Takanori Gomi in the first round, and if not, then we're going to see John Tuck win a decision. Takanori Gomi even win 3 years ago when he was fighting Isaac Valley Flag. He was basically throwing one strike at a time, just one, maybe 1, 2, but not like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, or anything like that when he beat Valley Flag via decision. And after 5 minutes, he looked really gassed. He put his hands on his knees, took a huge deep breath after the first round. What saved him there was during an exchange in the second round, a piece of tape came off of his glove, and they had to stop the fight to cut that, and he got to regain some of his cardio and his oxygen with that stoppage there. John Tuck is 6 years younger, and in terms of fight miles, Takanori Gomi is 35-12. John Tuck is 9-4. Jeepers creepers, that's a huge gap there. And then John Tuck is 6 years younger than him in terms of how many times the Earth has been around the sun. Tuck does hit decently hard. He does have some pretty good kicks, and I think John Tuck finishes Takanori within a round and a half. The odds have Takanori as the underdog at plus 180. John Tuck favorite minus 260. Over under is set at 1.5 rounds. over going minus 165 and under at plus 125. Given that Takanari has not gone past the 2.5 minute mark in 3 years, maybe pick the under 1.5 rounds. Maybe. But I just don't trust John Tuck to get a finish. I'll probably pick John Tuck via second half of round number 2 finish. Chris Garner agrees with me. He's there to sell tickets. John Tuck hasn't fought anyone like TJ. Would be a best fight. You mean completely shop-worn, Stewart? Completely? I mean, anyway, moving down. Cyril Silverback Asker versus Walt the Big Ticket Harris. Cyril Asker is 8-2. Harris is 9-5. The odds have... Oh gosh, I've been forgetting to give my grades. The last fight, I'm going to give a D because one, we're about to see a legend get knocked out, and if that doesn't happen, we're going to see a decision. And I don't like seeing legends get knocked out. I'm giving that fight a D. Cyril Asker versus Walt Harris. The odds have Walt Harris minus 230, Cyril Asker plus 170. I'm giving the fight grade a C. A little bit of my grade, or a lot of my grade, is coming because I think we see a finish, and I think we see it on the side of Walt Harris. Even though Walt is 9-5, that's not a great record. He should have a huge athletic advantage on Cyril Asker. And in his last time out against Chase Sherman, he looked like a world beater. Did some great things. He doesn't have great head movement. He's there to be hit. He's not that durable. Nikita Krylov came in here at heavyweight, head kicked him into oblivion in 25 seconds. But I just don't think that Cyril Asker is UFC level. In Cyril's last fight against Dmitry Smolyakov gassed by throwing like 6 feints. And then like, what the fuck? Dmitry Smolyakov? And so Cyril got a ground and pound TKO, I believe, right? Let me just check to make sure I'm not... I believe that's true. I'm just going to go with it. Cyril got a ground and pound TKO. He hit Smolyakov with something, dropped him, got a GMP, where Smolyakov just kind of turtled up. Man, Smolyakov's obviously not UFC caliber. Cyril Asker is not UFC caliber, even though he does have some decent movement. His hand speed is deceptively quick, despite having a worse dad bod than Dan Kelly. But I just think Walt Harris is on a different level physically, athletically, strength-wise, speed-wise, even mobility-wise. I don't see any way really that Walt Harris doesn't get a finish inside the distance here. So I've got the big ticket via first-round KO or TKO. Jeremy Brigham says Harris via complete domination, or complete dominance, he said. So that's verbatim. Yep, I think Harris inside the distance would be my pick there. Moving down, Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres versus Ronaldo. One sec, sorry. Ronaldo Gabriel Dye. I think it's pronounced Dye. Anyway, I'll talk about Dye first. He throws a lot of fantastic combinations. He doubles up on the jab quite frequently. He'll throw maybe a double up on the jab, overhand right, then left body kick. He throws really thunderous low kicks, both inside and out. And when I first started watching him, I thought he was... And he's making his UFC debut, of course. That should be noted. And I believe it is on... Is it on short notice? Maybe not. Maybe it's not on short notice. Anyway, he's pretty good at transitioning from striking to grappling. And when I was first watching him, I thought he was just a pure Muay Thai kickboxer. He really throws his hips into low kicks, you know, kind of like a Muay Thai specialist does. But he transitions to grappling really well. And he actually has 2 submission victories under his belt. His best weapon is a left hook. He will throw it as a counterattack, or he'll throw it as like his lead attack in lieu of a jab. He'll throw that first, and that's really his most devastating strike. I think his last finish came via left hook, where he just crumbled the man, just put him right down. He has pretty darn good ground skills as well, but his level of competition is not good. If you look at his SureDog page, I think his last like 3 opponents are 3-2, 2-3, and then 3-2 again. So not really good there. Bruce Leroy is known for his pretty dynamic, smooth, flowy striking style with a lot of kicks. And he's really good at keeping distance. I think he should have a distance advantage over Roland Dye. But Bruce Leroy also has phenomenal jiu-jitsu. He's actually one of the jiu-jitsu coaches at the MMA lab. He doesn't have a great record. He is 12-10. Roland Dye is 8-4-1. The odds have Caceres at -275. The comeback on Dye at +195. I do believe that Bruce Leroy is going to get the victory here. I think it's probably going to be via late submission. A couple of times when I was watching Roland, he would get going with like some thunderous striking techniques early, a lot of good combinations early on in fights. But then there were times where he would just stand there with his hands down. Bruce Leroy is in phenomenal shape. He sometimes puts himself in bad predicaments, and his huge helmet of hair really lets his opponents get a hold of his neck easy, and so he can't pop his head out. I don't think Roland's going to submit him. I think that Caceres, even though I don't think he has as much like oomph in his kicks, I think he should land at a higher clip than Roland early. Roland's probably going to get tired. And then Caceres is going to be able to get the fight to the ground and probably get a rear naked choke in round number 3. But something that I was thinking about earlier is I believe that Roland is fighting kind of close to home. And where this is a fight card that's happening in Singapore in the middle of the night in America, do you think that dwindles fighters' UFC jitters a little bit? See, I understand if you're coming from somewhere like Singapore, you come to Vegas, you come to UFC 205, headlined by Conor McGregor. It's going to be the greatest, like largest viewed pay-per-view of all time. The UFC jitters got to be huge there. But where this fight card is on Fight Pass, it's happening in the middle of the night. It's in a country that's probably near you. I don't know exactly where he's from, but my question to you guys is: do you think that dwindles or lessens their octagon jitters just a little bit? I think it probably does. And that right there, on top of Dye is pretty well rounded, I believe. He could come in here and surprise us, where Bruce Leroy, he's super fun to watch, but he puts himself in such shitty predicaments a lot. He could lose this fight. I'm still picking him to get the victory via 3rd round submission, but I just want to present some things for you guys to think about. We already talked about Justin Scoggins versus Oka Yuta Sasaki. I'm picking Scoggins probably via something that happens in between the later part of round number 2 and the early part of round number 3, whether that be a foot to the face or an arm around the throat. I don't know exactly, but let's move down. Li the Leech Jingliang versus Frank Camacho. This is the 2nd time in a row that the Leech is facing a fighter on super short notice. Camacho is taking the fight. From the time he accepted the fight to the time the fight happens, it will be 11 days. That right there is absolutely crazy. The odds have Jingliang Li at -475, the comeback on Camacho at +325. So the Leech his nickname is apt. He has a smothering, suffocating ground game, really good with takedowns, phenomenal with his grappling skills, transitions on the ground, with top control once he gets the fight to the ground. He's really good with defensive wrestling, as he showed against Bobby Nash in his last fight. He's one of these Asian fighters that is super reckless to his detriment. Sometimes he has terrible striking defense, but he is in phenomenal shape. He recovers super quickly, and he's a skinny dude, kind of like Bruce Leroy, but he surprisingly hits really hard. And he doesn't throw that many feints, but he does throw some feints, and he'll get loose in there and start doing goofy shit with his hands that draws his opponent's weapons out, and then he can throw that overhand right or the right straight that tends to hurt a lot of opponents. Again, he's this skinny dude, but yet he hits super hard, and he's got UFC experience. Across the cage, Frank Camacho is making his UFC debut on short notice. As I mentioned, he normally fights at 155 pounds. He has missed weight at 155 pounds before, so he probably will be a decent-sized welterweight. Li Jingliang is a pretty large dude, and I think that he will have a size advantage. But Frank Camacho, he has a pretty good wrestling. He has some pretty decent wrestling chops himself. He can get fights to the ground. He can look for submissions and a little bit of ground and pound. Li Jingliang is 3 inches taller than Camacho, but he does not have a reach advantage of note. One sec. Camacho, his record is kind of padded. The one guy in recent years that had a decent record, he lost to him. He loves to throw the overhand right, and he will sometimes surprise his opponents he throws a bunch of jab overhand rights, a bunch of them. Sometimes he throws the overhand right just naked. Sometimes he will throw in a jab overhand right left hook, which once he's done just the jab overhand right or just the overhand right naked a bunch of times, when he throws, he adds that third strike to the combination, it tends to, or at least at the lower levels, surprise his opponents, and he's hurt a couple of guys, at least on the film I was watching, with a left hook that came from his overhand right. So he throws it overhand right, gets your shoulders to dip this way, and then comes back with the left hook. So he's using a lot of torso with it. It tends to hurt his opponents. His cardio is not great. Most of his fights have ended in the first round, and I forget which fight it was that I was watching. Early in round number 2, he was looking super gassed, super winded, but was still able to get the finish. Li Jingliang should have a little size advantage, even though I said the tail of the tape doesn't show that. But because Frank is coming in here on 11-day short notice, where he normally has kind of shitty cardio, and then you're coming in on short notice, I think his cardio will suck. Li Jingliang has good cardio. He's very fit. He recovers quickly from being hurt, even when he has terrible striking defense, gets wobbled a little bit, is able to come back from that quickly because he's in great, phenomenal shape. And I think Li Jingliang is going to get a third-round KO or TKO over Frank Camacho. Or possibly it could happen in round number 2, but I think a lot of it has to do with, again, Li's surprising power in his right hand, and then his vast advantage in the cardio game. Home steward Jamang says that the crowd will be behind Li, and maybe that will push him to victory as well. Moving down, Kwan Ho Quak, the handsome, versus Russell Doan. Kwan Ho Quak made his UFC debut against Brett Johns on short notice, and he lost. But Brett Johns has phenomenal grappling. Kwan Ho Quak is a stand-up kickboxer. He came in on short notice, probably wasn't prepared for the wrestling of Brett Johns, and Quak got a little bit tired. But again, that's because Brett Johns has a smothering ground game, really good takedowns. He's not going to have to defend takedowns against Russell Doan. Russell Doan, you would think that he has a reach advantage, but he does not. These guys are almost virtually identical on the tail of the tape. And Doan is mostly known as a striker. He hits pretty hard. He loves to throw looping strikes. But he basically throws one strike at a time, where Quak is going to be throwing punches in bunches. And I think that Quak is going to have a significant advantage in that this is close to home for him. Doan is making a longer trip. Quak is going to throw more strikes at a time. I think he'll have a cardio advantage, an overall physicality advantage, and I'm picking Kwan Ho Quak via decision. The odds have Quak at -195, the comeback on Doan at +155. Yeah, I'm picking Quak via decision. Let me see if there's any. Over 1.5 rounds is -185. That is worthless to me. I've been forgetting again to give my grades. Let's see. Caceres versus Gabriel Dai. I'm giving that a C. Kind of excited for it. Li Jingliang versus Frank Camacho. Super excited for that one. Going to give that a B. If Li Jingliang shows up and does wild and crazy shit, we're going to really enjoy that. Giving that a B. Kwan Ho Quak versus Russell Doan. Giving that a C. Quak via decision once again. Now we're going to move down to Naoki Inoue versus Carlos John Golden Boy de Thomas. The odds have de Thomas as the underdog at +185 and Naoki Inoue at -265. I'm giving this fight an F because before I did my film study, I knew nothing about these cats. So, boop, giving that baby a 1. I really have to pull up my notes for this one, guys. So sorry if it's going to take me a second. Okay. Both guys are undefeated in their professional careers. Their level of competition, like a lot of the people on this card, especially ones making debuts, has been terrible, and I think their records are a little bit padded. There is minimal film that I could find on either guy. Inoue has 7 wins via submission, 3 via decision. He will have a reach advantage, and I think that he's going to be the more violent guy in the octagon, at least if the fight... Oh, no. Especially if the fight it happens in the clinch. He's very violent in the clinch. Thomas, 3 wins via decision, 3 wins via submission. I think that we see this fight happen a lot on the ground. He'll want to take the fight to the ground and look for any type of submission that deals with an arm. Armbar, Kimura, key lock, whatever. For a pick, I mean, I wouldn't want to pick either guy, but thank you to Best Fight Odds for telling me that Inoue is minus 265, so I will pick him via decision. Perhaps he doesn't get a finish because if he were to get a finish, it would be via submission, and where Tomas, that's where he excels as well. He probably doesn't get it. So actually with these unknown guys where they don't have a mutual opponent or anything like that, sometimes we see a finish. Maybe this fight could be wild and crazy, but I'm going to pick Inoue via, officially I'll go 3rd round submission. Hopefully I can remember that. First fight of the night. It's a debutante, Ji Yeon Kim versus Lucy Bullet Putilova. So just last week, or actually a couple of days ago, we saw Chanmi Jeon. Was that right? Chanmi Jeon, yeah. Was the number 3 South Korean fighter in the world, women's fighter, pound for pound in the world. Ji Yeon Kim is the number 1 pound for pound fighter in Korea, and also the number 1 in South Korea, of course. And she's also the number 1 pound for pound ranked fighter in Japan. She has actually fought people with really good records, which is surprising. She's making her UFC debut. She is 6-0-2. Putilova is 6-2. The odds have Putilova at minus 155. The comeback on Kim plus 115. I'm giving this fight, gosh darn it, I want to say C, but I'm going to go with the D. I think the fight will overcome my expectations, though. Kim has most of her victories via submission, but on the feet, she is really fun to watch. She throws thunderous strikes. She throws her entire body into almost every strike that she throws. One thing that's not good, though, is she likes to throw overhands and looping punches and will often duck her head into them. But something that's crazy is, even if she hasn't been facing the highest level of competition in the world, is she puts women down. A lot of times in this weight class, in the lower weight classes, in any male or female in the lower weight classes, there aren't a lot of people that put people down. Kim does. She drops a lot of her opponents, and she then gets them to the ground, and she's pretty smooth with her transitions. She goes for a lot of submission attacks. She doesn't have the best head movement because she's often rolling into strikes with overhands and looping punches, but she's really good at getting out of the way of strikes, using footwork to maneuver around opponents, and also get that lean back so she can miss strikes. So she has good head movement there, but she's hittable when she throws first. This is the last thing I want to say about her, is again, even though Kim has not fought the best level of competition in her career, she is one hell of a confident lady in there. She's going to come out there and she's going to think that she's the number 1 pound for pound woman fighter in the world, and that's fun to watch. And she's going to throw fucking bungalows with full body force into every single strike that she throws. So look out for her. Even if she loses against Lucy Putilova, I think she'll be someone to watch in the future. And I do think she loses to Lucy Putilova. Putilova, in her UFC debut, she fucked up Lena Landsberg in the 3rd round of their fight, so much so that I thought the fight should have been a draw, but it was called a victory for Lena Landsberg because Lena won the first 2. What could come to bite Pudilova in the ass here was Lena Landsberg was able to take Pudilova down in the first 2 rounds and get those victories with the top control. Kim, she does have some decent ground skills, so look out for that. But Pudilova on the feet, she throws really lengthy strikes and has a really intelligent lead hand and a super, super quick 1-2 combination that she will just catch you on the very end of her punches. Really lengthy with that, and she will definitely have a length advantage in this matchup. I don't know exactly. We don't have a reach number for Kim, but I think that Pudilova will be taller. She is taller, 2 inches taller. I think she'll have a reach advantage, but I think that she also throws the lengthier striking techniques because she's catching girls on the end of her straight punches where Kim is throwing looping strikes. If Pudilova doesn't succumb to a takedown or get hurt with one of Kim's wild looping punches and get put on her back, I think that she can keep the fight standing if Kim's just throwing regular takedowns. I think she will piece Kim up from a distance. Again, these lower weight classes, especially in the females, I'm not being sexist, but it's just true. They don't finish all that frequently, and I think that Pudilova is going to get a decision victory. So let me go over to my grades, tally them up, average them out, and then we'll see what final grade I gave it. Remember at the beginning I said I give the entire card a C. So what did it actually average out to be? Bam, straight up C. So that's awesome. So I was giving a grade like 5 for an A, 1 for an F. My average on all 12 fights turned out to be a 3.08. So just above a straight C. So that's like we probably got a 75er or some shit like that. So that's pretty cool. Chris Gardner said this about the previous fight that I didn't know who I was picking in Inoue versus De Thomas. Just cheer for a good fight. And that's what I'll hope for, because it'll be shortly after I wake up to do the MMA preamble right here on MMA Mania's Facebook page. So I will just cheer for a really, really fun fight. Now, let's transition into some news, or not really news, but just talking about some recent MMA events. But I need some transition music. Fight news. So I already mentioned that Conor McGregor versus Money Mayweather. The venue has been booked for August the 26th, but neither fighter has got a fight license yet. I've been one of the biggest doubters that this fight was gonna happen for the longest time, but wow, things just keep moving forward, and it seems like this fight is actually going to take place. And if it does, will Conor McGregor return to mixed martial arts after probably losing to Floyd Mayweather? Maybe. Most people are going to say no, but I'm going to say maybe. And here's why. Even if he gets destroyed by Money Mayweather, not even let's say he gets knocked out. Even if he gets knocked out, which is the worst possible case scenario for Conor McGregor, he is still going to be way more popular because he could do something fun in that fight and still get knocked out, do something interesting, and he'll gain fans, or he'll gain recognition. People will know who he is even more than they do right now. And if he were to come back to the UFC, he could bargain for even more money than he already makes for the UFC. So sure, if he makes $50 million to fight Money Mayweather, he could retire and be the happiest man in the world for the rest of his life, never have to work a minute again. But he could also then come back to the UFC and make $12 million for one fight, say against fucking Tyron Woodley or something. Who knows? GSP. He would just have so much more bargaining power after that fight happens. Who do I think is going to win? Mayweather, man. Mayweather makes like other high-level boxers with a lot of experience look like fools with his extremely technical defensive boxing style with the shoulder in front. Huge knockout artists like Canelo Alvarez can't even touch the man. Conor McGregor doesn't have professional boxing experience. And people think that Conor's going to flash knock out Floyd Mayweather? I don't think so, homies. Maybe if we put 4-ounce gloves on him, Conor McGregor could, left straight Floyd into unconsciousness. But we're talking about 10-ounce gloves here, right? No, it's not going to happen. But I guess I'll be as excited as the next person to see Floyd Mayweather fight Conor McGregor. Anyway, that's fight news for that. Jeremy Brigham says he loves the spider's web behind me, pretty awesome. I picked that up from MMA History Today. Follow them on Twitter at MMA History Today. I picked that up. Anderson Silva's my favorite fighter. If you did not know, it's really cool. You order the poster. I put it in my own case, picture frame, and it also comes with this thing here, which describes every single one of Anderson Silva's finishes in the UFC. And then, of course, the picture is of every one of Anderson Silva's finishes. So, yeah. Jeremy says that he picked his up, just ordered his, and I think everyone should. If you like Anderson Silva, pick this thing up. There are only a limited amount of them. Once they make them and sell them, they're gone forever. There's a piece of memorabilia that maybe Anderson Silva didn't sign it, but I think it's super fucking cool. So, and they didn't pay me. This not a paid advertisement. I in no way benefited from telling you guys that. I just love it, and I love Anderson Silva. So there's that. Jeremy Brigham wants Conor McGregor to fight Tony Ferguson. Me too, but it all depends on what the biggest money fight is for Conor McGregor. And one flaw of Ferguson is he's a phenomenal fighter, don't get me wrong. He refuses to promote himself. Like after his fight against Eddie Alvarez, he refused to say anything on the microphone. Hey man, we're talking about you say you're taking everything I worked for, motherfucker, and turning that sentence into millions of dollars for Nate Diaz, and you're just saying, nah, I'd rather not. Pass. That's stupid. But yeah, I want to see Tony Ferguson fight Conor McGregor too. Anyway, next piece of news. Flip this over. Sean Grand leaves as Bellator's commentator, which leaves the door open for Mike Goldberg to come in. If that hasn't been announced yet, I'm certain that it's coming. It has not happened yet, as I'm looking at Twitter right now for some news. But so anyway, not a lot to talk about here. The only thing is, so like Luke Thomas, who's, I don't want to say he's one of my idols, but I look up to him and I want to do my videos as well as he does his videos. And the similar style, talking head type of thing, I look up to Luke Thomas. He's not my idol, but I look up to him and I admire him in ways, even though sometimes he's a jerk. He is. That's the truth. But that's his personality, and maybe he just comes off as a little brash. Anyway, he said that people thinking that Mike Goldberg would be great for Bellator. No, wait, it was Jonathan Snowden that said this. Anyway, I still like Luke Thomas. But Jonathan Snowden said that the MMA is always going to be third rate because fight fans want Mike Goldberg around, even if we have him in Bellator. And, I mean, that makes sense. But at the same time, Mike wasn't great at his job. And he did it for 20 years and never really got better. But he just added some comfort to the presentation of the whole event. And I would love to see him in Bellator. And I hope that happens. And here's the thing. What if they bring in Mike Goldberg specifically for Bellator's pay-per-view? That adds one more little reason for people to buy the pay-per-view. Like, oh, I want to see how Mike Goldberg does at commentating Bellator. Or perhaps I want to see how shitty of a job Mike Goldberg does in Bellator. Either way, tiny little reason to even more to tune in to Bellator's pay-per-view. So I want to see it. I'm still undecided if I'm going to buy Bellator's pay-per-view because it's like $50 and like it's headlined by Chael Sonnen versus Vanderlei Silva, right? Like fuck that fight. That fight's worthless to me. There are other fights on the card that are way more exciting. But anyway, I digress. Holm Stewart Jamang says, I would pick Conor even in defeat. Money Mayweather is one of the most boring but best fighters in the world. Chris Garner says Woodley seems like a bad matchup for Conor. Woodley'd have a huge size advantage. He's great with wrestling. Conor's not great with takedown defense. A terrible matchup, but he could get paid, man. I think Conor's probably looking to fight George St. Pierre when he, if he were to fight Floyd and then come back to the UFC. But of course, all of this is just pure speculation. Who would win between the Flash and the Green Lantern? We don't know. Shit's never going to happen. Let's transition into the third section of the show, which is just called Geeked Outside of Mixed Martial Arts. Again, I need some transition music, so let me... Good enough. Geeked out. So, this is a section of the program where I just talk about something that I've been interested in that does not involve mixed martial arts, that has nothing to do with sports really at all. And so, of course, you know that I produce videos for MMA Mania. I make a prediction video for every main event where I use a green screen, kind of, and I put some production quality in it. I do some editing and, you know, do lots of cool shit. I think it's cool shit. I need a good computer to be able to do that and to make my life easier and making things go faster. Also, I play some video games and I want to play Destiny 2 when it comes out on PC. But I want to be able to stream it so I can talk about Destiny 2, my explorations with Destiny 2, but also talk about some MMA. So that's kind of relating it to not geeked outside of MMA. But this is about computers. I want to be able to stream. I want to be able to talk about the game. I want to be able to render my videos that I make quicker than I do right now. I want to have more computing power. So recently I've been geeking out about computers and computer technology. I just bought some extra gigabytes of RAM to make my editing life a little bit easier. I bought an SSD, a standard state drive, hard drive, or standard state drive, so I can make things go a little bit faster and make it easier on myself. I'm learning about Ryzen AMD chips, and I'm doing a little bit of research on AMD versus Intel and what would be better for rendering versus gaming and all of that type of stuff. Computers are really fun, and a lot of it is over my head, but I enjoy geeking out over learning it. I love learning. One thing, if I can tell you guys about me in a way that you probably don't know right now, is I started being Flyin Brian when I graduated from college. And what the issue was with me was I got done with college, and I'm like, great, I got a diploma, now what? For 4 years, my sole focus was getting a degree. And then I was like, well, I achieved that goal. Now I feel worthless, or I feel lost in life without a goal to be looking forward to. So I started a YouTube channel and started talking about mixed martial arts because I had already been watching it since 2003, maybe not 2003, since Forrest Griffin versus Stephan Bonner. I've been watching it since then. So I decided to start making videos, making podcasts, talking about mixed martial arts so I could have a goal of working toward making myself into somebody that people knew in the mixed martial arts world. My goal was to become a Luke Thomas, to become a Jonathan Snowden, a Jeremy Botter, a John Morgan, you know. And in order to do that, I need a good computer. And in order to do that, I need to keep learning. I love learning. Every single day of my life, I want to learn more and more, fill my brain with knowledge. So that's my geeked outside of MMA. Jeremy Brigham says he will be in OKC for the fight card, or he'll order Bellator versus Larkin, or Bellator for Larkin versus Lima. What? No, oh yeah. Anyway, that's the entire show, guys. Please subscribe to us on SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, Player FM, all of those, wherever you find your podcast. Please subscribe to us there. If we are not there, tell me and I will get us there. Just search for MMA Mania. You can follow me on Twitter at Flyin Brian J. Please, I'm begging you. I know that's kind of embarrassing, but I'm begging you. Like my Facebook page. It is in the title of this video. And I will see you guys on Saturday morning. I will be here at about 2:30 Central Time, 3:30 a.m. Eastern Time to do the MMA preamble, where I would basically do the beginning of this show again, or I might try to do something else since I already gave out my picks and everything like that. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I'll see you on Saturday. Namaste.